Okay, so I'll be over here. I would love to be like in the middle. That's usually where I do my workshops, but I'm gonna try out being over here because that means I'll be able to record more because it's closer to my computer. If this feels like weird for you, we can go back to doing old-fashioned workshops. There are like a few workshops that I have to do like at this table because it's close to the cone. So I still need to figure out how to record that. But this is how the format's going to be so that you can look back at this at any time. This is one of the workshops that is going to be a little bit more tedious because there's a lot of tools. So some of these workshops are going to be quick and easy. It's going to be like a 5-step process with minimal tools. And then there's going to be some that have a lot of tools and a lot of different processes. That's what this is going to be. Okay, I just want to say that so everyone is kind of clear what's going on. Okay, so this is intro to piercing metal or informally sawing metal. So if you could just title your notes that. We will get in the habit of titling our notes so we know exactly what methods we are doing. You are going to be learning probably over 12, maybe 15 different types of things to do in here. So you want to get in the habit of taking really, really good notes, really thorough notes, as much as you can. Because what happens is after I'm done teaching this, you are on your own. This is just like a college class, so I'm not going to hold your hand because you have to be a self-learner and here to understand how to properly do these techniques. These techniques aren't very challenging. They're beginner level, so don't freak out. But I do want you to take thorough notes so you can reference them later. Okay? So this is your workspace. It's going to be your table. So we really need to focus on the edge of the table because that's where we will be setting up our bench pen. So without further ado, I'm going to talk to you about all the materials that we are going to be using. Okay, so the first thing I want you to kind of label that you need, maybe start a list off in your notes, like a materials list. This will be good, like a little section that says materials list. So this is what you'll need to pick up in the beginning of the classroom. Okay, first thing is a bench pen. Okay, a bench pen is a little piece of wood that you attach to your table or workspace. This allows you to comfortably saw metal on top of it. And you will see that process when I actually set this up. But how it looks is it kind of comes off the edge, and I'm going to move my camera just a little bit so you can see. Okay, so it kind of comes off the edge just like that, and then you're able to saw on top of this. This is great because then you won't be sawing the table, okay, and you're able to kind of maneuver your piece so that you can cut out specific shapes that you want or patterns, okay? What you will need with this bench pen is a C-clamp, okay? So this is C, like a regular C in the alphabet. It's a C-clamp. This helps clamp your bench pen to the table. If you have been in your parents' workshop or they have these laying around, this probably looks familiar. We use these a lot to clamp wood or things to tables. And obviously it looks like a little C. So that's why it's called C-clamp. Okay. These two are pairs. They go together. So I'm going to set that to the side, go to the next thing. The most important thing that you will need in this demo is the jeweler's saw. So this is called technically a jeweler's saw. Okay, so this is how you're going to saw out or formally pierce out, like you're piercing your ears, metal. Okay, you'll hear me interchange those words. Technically it's called piercing metal, but sometimes I just say you're sawing out metal because it's easier. If you look closely, I don't know if you can kind of see that. I feel like I'm in a YouTube video right now. I'm focusing the camera. Okay, if you see that, okay, that is the saw blade. So you can't really see the little teeth right here, but there's teeth on this side. This is how you'll actually cut the metal. Okay, we set these in here. Okay, I will go through the technical process, but just for the sake of the video, so you can kind of see, these just come out like that. Okay. So you'll need the saw, you'll need the jeweler's saw, and you'll need a saw blade that goes with your metal gauge. And speaking of that, since we're on the topic of metal gauge, I just talked to you all about this in the beginning of class, okay? You'll learn this as you go, but you will pick the appropriate saw blade, okay, that goes with the appropriate metal gauge that you have. How metal gauges work, okay, is there is a little number on the back. Sometimes when you're in the scrap bin, you won't see a number, but for the most part, they're all pretty much labeled. The number on the back is the gauge of metal that it is, okay? So we have 18, 20, 22, 24, and 26. Now I have 18 and 26 from last year. I did not order it this year because of inflation. So we had to downsize a couple of items to make budget in here. But you might see a few 26s and 18s circulating from the past couple years. But for the most part, we use 22s and 24s. Those are really great medium thickness sizes for metal. Okay, so how gauges work are the bigger the number. So if it was 26 gauge, the metal will continuously get thinner. Okay, so it would start like this. 24 gauge, pretty thin. 26 gets thinner. 28 even thinner, and so on. The bigger the number, the thicker the metal gauge is. So if I had 20 gauge, that's pretty thick. If I moved up to 18 gauge, it would get thicker. If I went to 16 gauge, it would be even thicker. So it's kind of the opposite of what you would think it would be. You would think that maybe the smaller the number, the thinner it will be. That's not the case for this. It's actually the bigger the number, the thinner it will be. Okay? So you will learn about saw blades. We'll talk about that. I'll leave a chart on Schoology. You will pick the correct saw blade for your metal gauge. Okay, so how it works is there are aughts, okay, and how aughts work, they almost look like fractions. So right here I have a 4/0. The way that that looks is a 4/0, and I'm actually going to show you just on a little post-it note so you can see what that size looks like on paper. Okay. Okay, so it would be a 4/0. That is a 4/0. We have 3/0, and we have 2/0. Okay, so how this works is 4/0 are great for 24 gauge metal. Okay, 3/0 are great for 22. And then 2/0 are great for 20 gauge. And then I'm going to put an arrow and explain something here in a second as you're writing down. So if we ever had, like, you're saying, like, Miss Murphy, I know that you only ordered 24, 22, 20 gauge this year, but I found a 26. What blade should I use, since you haven't had me write that down? You can get away with doing a 26 with a 4/0. So same thing as that range that I talked to you about, the thinner the metal, okay? Whatever your thinnest metal, or excuse me, saw blade is, you can go with the next thinnest gauge. Okay, so this also works for 26. I'm going to put that on my sticky note. Okay, and then same thing, you go, Miss Murphy, okay, I found an 18 gauge piece of metal. You can do the same thing with a 2/0. So you can go to 18 with a 2/0. How saw blades work is you can go a step up or a step down. If you're in a bind, these are the best suggestions for those gauges. But if I ran out of 3/0 and I needed that for a 22, I can get away with it with a 4/0 or a 2/0. Okay, you just can't go too far, because then that's when saw blades start breaking, because they can't take it. Because the teeth, the little tiny teeth that are on the saw blade, those sizes are for the gauge. So if it's thin, the teeth will be small, and if the metal's really big and thick, then the teeth will be bigger, so it can chomp through. and you'll see that when we actually do it. Okay, and that's a little bit of math. There's not much math in this class, but this is one of the, you know, like more technical things that I want you to know. Okay. Okay, so there's a couple more things that you need. When you are sawing the metal, okay, you are going to need wax. Okay, so this is wax. It's Burlife. That's the specific brand. You'll hear me say wax. You will need this to lubricate your blade so that it can cut through the metal with ease. Okay, if you don't use wax, it's going to be too dry and then your saw blade could break. Okay, so you want it to be able to cut through the metal with ease, so that's why we use wax. Okay. This is an etching needle. Okay, what I want you to write down in the notes is it is the needle that has a twist in the middle, because I have several needles in here. You'll see a couple more needles. You want to write it is the needle that has a twist in the middle. And then I also want you to write in your notes that this could be found with the files in the file container. Because I kind of put them all together because I didn't want to, I'm cheap. I didn't want to buy a bunch of different containers that were unnecessary. So these can be found in the file container. Okay. These are little bunches of saw blades. So they come in 144 packs. That's how small they look. They're really tiny. I will show you at the end of class where to find everything. Right now, since we're starting, everything you need will be on this table, but once we get the ball rolling, I'm actually going to put them up where they're supposed to be, and you're going to have to figure out where to grab things. We will have a tour of the room so you know where everything is. I have so many different things, but you need to know how to, you know, work in this room and figure out where everything is and where everything goes when we're done. Okay, so I'm done yip yapping. I'm actually going to show you how to do this, okay? So, materials lists are done. Go ahead and start with, you know, the processes in your note. We are going to start with step number 1. Okay. So step number 1 would be to set up your space. Now it's a little tricky. I'm going to do it real slow. So what you want to write, okay, these two little grooves right here, I always think of them as trays. Therefore, when you want to stick little tiny things in there to hold, like rivets or whatever you need, it's a great thing. No, okay, we're good. So they're cutting off my computer. So you need these face up. So don't flip this upside down or it's not going to work. Okay, so face that up. You'll see this little groove right here as well. You want that facing you. Okay? And what you are going to do, I want everyone to pause their notes and just watch because it's a little tricky. You are going to take that C-clamp and you are going to go underneath, okay? And then you're going to fish it through that, and then this is going to lay gently into this groove. This should be flat. Okay, so how I think of it is this little silver part. This is like the tail. It should be sticking out. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to fish it through and then put it through the slot. I don't know, for many years I've seen kids struggle with this. I think they try to put it in like this way, and they're like, I can't do it. Okay, I get it. It's kind of confusing, but you just want to make sure that that fishes through and that this little silver tail is hanging out, and then flip it this way. Okay, so this is what it should look like. And then what you would do is you would just put this at the edge of your table and then just clamp it. Now I am quizzing you on this tomorrow. I'm not going to give you a workshop. I'm going to give you directions. I'm going to say, hey, I want you to set up your space. I'm not going to give you any directions. You need to use your notes and your friends at the table. And then I'll give you like 5 to 10 minutes to do that, and then I'll come around and check. So that's how I quiz you to make sure you were understanding during the note process. Okay, so then what you'll do at the bottom is you're going to turn it, okay? To tighten it, you are going to go counterclockwise. Okay, you'll know that when you have it in your hand. It's going to be common sense. You'll feel it tightening. Okay, if you don't still understand that, just kind of look down. I always bend down and make sure that it's tightening. It'll start lifting up. The little silver part will start like going up once you're twisting it. Okay, you really want to make sure that this isn't moving too much. If it's slipping around and sliding too much, you need to go back and tighten it. So I need to tighten this just a little bit more, and then it's pretty good to go. Okay. Okay. So now we are going to set up the jeweler's saw. Okay. Let's talk about the anatomy of this real quick so you can understand what's going on here. Okay, so next thing is jeweler saw. The first thing I want to talk to you about is the height of this jeweler saw. This can be controlled. So this little section right here, this can be brought up or down using this little screw right here at the bottom. So if I loosen that up a little bit, I can actually move this up or down. Sometimes these get stuck and you have to like jiggle it like this. But these can be used to go up and down. Okay, so they can come off as well. We usually take these off and clean them and then put them back on, but that's how that works. Okay, you really don't have to mess with this too much. They're already pretty much set up to be useful. It's in an emergency where this comes off or this is kind of slightly off. You need to know how to put it back together. So what I do is I always say about a thumb. Okay, this is an inch. About a thumb at the bottom would be a great standard start. If this isn't showing this little tail at the bottom, about a thumb of it, then it's probably a little off. It's not a big deal. Okay, you just need to lift it up so that it's there. And the reason why I say that is that these blades are only so long. So if they aren't able to get into these two slots, which I'll talk about later, you need to adjust the height of your jeweler saw. Okay? So I'm just going to wiggle this in place and then screw it tight. Okay, make sure this is tight, that this doesn't go anywhere, and then we're good to go. Okay? So the next thing about this, see if I can lift it up just a little bit. Okay, the next thing about this is this section over here, so the left side. So you have your handle. Okay, when you are sawing metal, okay, it's gonna look like this. I don't have the blade in, so it's gonna look like this. So that's how you'll hold it. These two parts right here, where the screws are, that is where you'll insert the blade. Now I want you to look very specifically. I'm gonna make sure you can see it on camera. Okay, using this pencil, I'm gonna show you something. There is a couple different parts here. There's the frame, which is right here, this light silver right here. Then there's this little movable plate. Okay, that's the plate, and then there's the screw. In between the plate right here and the frame where my pencil's stuck, okay, that's where you're gonna insert your blade. That plate sandwiches it with the frame to make sure your blade doesn't fall out. Okay, so make sure it's in between the plate right there and the frame. And the same is for the bottom, so those are the exact same. Okay, so I'm going to adjust the camera so you can kind of see how this is looking, and then I'll switch the point of view in a second. So when you're setting up your frame, and you can look, I know you're looking at the screen, but you can also look at me as I'm doing this. It looks really awkward, but this is how you set up your blade. You actually use your chest to control it or keep it secure while you're setting it up. And this is because you need both hands to do it. You need one hand to put the blade in, and then you need the other hand to actually screw it. So you're left with kind of balancing it on your chest. This is how old school jewelers do it. Okay, so I always like to put it like on my chest or like near my shoulder. And this is what we're gonna do. The first thing I want to talk to you about is the saw blade. You need to make sure that your saw blade is on the correct side. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see. Okay, so you can barely see this. It's very hard. I'm going to try to focus as much as possible, but I'm going to talk you through this. But on this side right here, okay, are blades. If you can't see it on the screen or even in your hands, you'll feel it. So you'll run your finger on each side. The left side, I don't feel any blades. The right side, I do. When you are setting up your jeweler saw, and you're going to need to illustrate this on your notes or really write this in detail, okay, you want to make sure the blade is on the outside. Okay, here's where my hand is. This is the outside. You want to make sure your blades are on the outside of the jeweler saw, pointing down. I'm going to draw it on this note, on this little post-it note so you can see. Enlarge it in real life. This looks crazy. This is why I'm not the drawing teacher. Okay? That's what it's going to look like. So teeth pointing down on the outside. The reason why is because if I put the blades facing the inside, you're not going to be cutting metal. What I always say is this needs to look like a monster, okay? When you are chomping down on metal, you want the teeth to be on the outside and you want them pointing down so they can cut through that metal. It's like your mouth, okay? So it's like this. That's probably the most trickiest thing that you're going to deal with in here is putting the blade in. It's because it's small. So you'll be looking at this, and I'll pass this around. You'll be looking at this, and you'll be like, I can't see. What I do is I always put my hand up to it, okay, or I put it on a piece of white paper, and I just examine it, and you'll start to notice as you get acclimated with these blades what's pointing up, what's pointing down. This is pointing down. If I accidentally put it in pointing up, it's not going to cut. It's going to be really hard. You're going to be breaking blades. So if you're breaking blades automatically, it's probably because your blade's upside down. Okay. I'm just giving you a warning so you don't get frustrated. It's the most common issue in here. People who've had this class 2 or 3 times, they accidentally do it when they're tired. It just happens. Okay? Back to setting it up. Okay? So, step 1. Make sure your blade is facing the right way. Okay, I've just checked. My blades are pointing down towards me and they're on the outside. I've noticed that. So step 1, you want to insert the top first. It's going to be easier. Now, you can do the bottom first if you wanted to as you get skilled, but don't do it right now as a beginner. I just want you to have some routine. Okay, so just start with the top first. I'm going to fix this blade because it's a little, or this plate right here because it's a little wonky. I want it to be flush. So with my left hand, I'm putting that blade in between the the frame and the plate. Okay, and then I am closing this tight. Okay, you want this tight, you don't want this to fall out. Okay, so the top's in. I'm going to zoom in so you can kind of see it. Okay, sorry. Okay, so that's the top. It's in, secure. Now we are going to go to this side. Okay, this is the bottom. Here's a trick. I want you to think about, I don't know if anyone has played strings in here or guitar. When you think about string and guitar, the tighter it gets, the higher pitch it sounds, right? The reason why we do that is you want a nice tight chord when you're playing so that it sounds right. It's the same thing when you're setting up a jeweler saw. You have to add some tension so that it's tight, so that it cuts easy. If there's a little bit of slack in it, it's a little bit of wobbly. If I touch the blade and it's a little bit of wobbly, it's not going to be easy to cut with. So we want it as tight as possible. Here's the trick. When you are setting up, you need to back your fanny up, like back it up, like you're about to do a nice little squat. Yes, it's the best way you're going to remember this. You need to back your thing up, okay, and you need to get into a good squat like this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to push your shoulder, push this handle forward, okay? This is going to move because I don't have these locks, so let me try to lock these. Okay. So I'm pushing forward. You're going to feel the frame move. It's going to be a little bouncy. Okay, that's because it's made to be that way. Okay, while you're pushing in, same time, simultaneously, you are going to put the other end in and then tighten it. So it has to be simultaneously. As you're pushing in, you're also putting in the blade with your left hand, and then you're tightening it with the right hand. Okay, so when you ease off, when you stop pushing the handle, I know I'm hilarious. When you ease off, you're going to see the slack tighten, and then listen. It's going to sound like a freaking violin. When it has that high-pitched ding, you know you've done it right. Okay, so flick it. If it feels tight, okay, you know it's going to be ready to go. When you set it up tomorrow, I'm not going to be upset if it's a little bit loose. It's your first go around, but we'll get it to the point that it is. Okay, we are ready to actually cut metal. I know I keep talking a lot. This is like probably one of the most crucial lessons you're going to learn. Okay, so this is set up so that we can actually cut through this slot. It's okay if you cut through the wood. Don't worry, that's what it's made for. These are new, so they don't look that cut up, but you'll find some old ones that have been pretty cut through. Okay? You will draw a design or you will paste a design. So if you're a really good drawer, you can draw a design, but if you are not a great drawer like myself, you will find one off the old World Wide Web, and you will cut it out, and then you will paste it on metal. We have paper glue for that. I'll show you how to do that, but we're not going to do it right now. We're just going to do a simple line today, which is what we'll do tomorrow. So I'm going to draw this line with my pencil. Nothing too crazy. Okay, and then where that line starts, you can kind of see. Okay, so there's the line. Where that line starts, I'm going to use this etching needle to score. So scoring is where you scratch or create an indent. I'm going to score a path so that I can start easier. You won't need this in the next 2 weeks. This is just for beginners. In the next 2 weeks, when you get really good at this, you won't even need it. I'll show you how to start just right away, but this is great for you to start tomorrow, okay? Just a little hack. Score that with the etching needle. Okay, so there's where I scored. Right there, okay? Okay, so like I said, you're gonna get into your squatting stance. You need to, I'm gonna turn off this light so you can kind of see. Oh, you can see a little bit better. Okay, so here's what not to do, okay? What you don't wanna do in here is be crossing your legs, be really close to your work like this, caddying it like you're riding a horse. Like, we don't want to do that. You need to be like a caveman. Like I always say, you look like hunched over like you're about to attack someone. Like in a squat, fanny down, like this is how you should be in your stance. And it's because you will be able to actually sit there and saw and focus when you're bent over your work, and you will be less likely to break your blades. Okay, so I'm going to show you what this looks like. Okay, I'm going to take some wax. You'll take this wax and you'll just run it across your blade. It's a little messy, it's fine. I always say the more the merrier. You're going to continuously, as you're sawing, apply wax, like as you keep going. Okay, next step, your non-dominant hand, for me it's my left, you're going to hold the piece. Now, your non-dominant hand, you want to grip the metal tight, so you have control. Okay, so with the non-dominant hand, you're gonna grip it so that it's tight and you have control over the piece. This is really what steers the show right here, is this hand. Okay? Now for your actual jeweler saw, you do not, once you put this in big caps, you do not really want to grip this too tight. You want to have a comfortable grip. So don't death grip it like this. That's what beginners do, and what happens is when you grip it so tight, you start breaking saw blades because you're holding the whole thing too tight. You're forcing it too much. So don't, just relax. The teeth of the blade are going to do the cutting for you, not your actual hand. Okay, so I could almost, I mean, don't do this, but I could almost hold it like this, like really loose, and I could still cut metal really well. Okay, another thing I want you to do is don't push forward. All you're going to do is just go straight vertical, up to down. Okay, you'll see that. All right, I'm going to start. First thing I want you to write down is you are going to start at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to see if I can maneuver my camera so you can see it. I don't know. This thing is fancy. This thing is worth the money. Okay, still getting the hang of this, so just bear with me. Okay. So you'll start at a 45-degree angle. Do not start like this. Don't start straight up and down. Start at a 45-degree angle, and then you're going to slowly go straight up and down. Okay, so I'm just going to strike through going down. Okay, so that's how it sounds. That's what it looks like. And then go up. And then you're slowly going to go vertical. Okay, I'm going to back out and do that one more time so you can kind of see that process. Okay, you're going to start at a 45-degree angle. Write that down in your notes so you know. Start at a 45-degree angle. You're going to strike down, then up, like you're playing the violin. Okay, and then you're slowly going to go vertical, straight up and down. In all caps, do not push. Do not push. Don't do it. You don't need to push. That's not going to work. It's going to break the blade. All you need to do is go straight up and down. That, you'll feel it. It'll start guiding you as you chomp through the metal. Okay? If you get stuck, say you're stuck and it's not moving, you need to wiggle it and go back out. Chances are you might break your blade your first time. Don't freak out. But try to, it's like backing a car up exactly how you came in. Okay? If you did a curved line, you're going to have to back up like you were going in. Okay? If it feels dry, okay, this is starting to feel dry, I'm going to take some of the wax and just, as I'm still like sawing or piercing the metal, I'm just going to add some. Notice how I'm holding one finger on one edge on the other edge. That's the key to getting it not to lift up. I see a lot of people hold it like this. I don't think that's going to be the best for beginners. I think you need to hold down each edge. Okay. And you see how I'm moving the metal? That's how you can steer sawing out the piece. Okay. Just going to change the camera angle so you can kind of see. Okay, and then I'm just, while we have one more minute, I'm just going to show you what that looks like in this point of view. Okay, so tomorrow we're just going to do straight lines, curved lines. We're not going to do shapes, and then the next day we're going to do shapes, and then I'm going to show you some tricks after that, okay? Keep these notes. Tomorrow I'm going to quiz you. I'm going to leave everything over here, everything out. Jeweler saws, I'm not going to put on the table because there's a lot of them. Everyone look real quick. Jeweler saws are going to be right here. Okay, jeweler saws are going to be right here. Everything else will be on this table. Metal is going to be over here as well. It's already cut for you. We will talk about your challenge tomorrow. We're actually going to try it tomorrow. Are you excited? It's going to be cool. Sorry that was lengthy, but it has to be so you know what you're doing. Okay? You turn your syllabus in, make sure that's in. I'm gonna start grading those. Posting this on Schoology.